saw the stars around her head, and it was a clear blue sky. And he looked up and he saw the stars and the clear blue sky and said, that must be the symbol of the European Union. And he went along and he said it to his associates, and they said, that's a good idea. And we're asked to believe that. It's a blatant symbol of, at least on one level, the goddess figure. And, you know, the symbolism you've mentioned of the goddess Europa riding the bull. Well, the bull is the god figure. It's the Nimrod figure. And you've got commemorative coins being minted by the European Union over the years. There was one in 2005 to 2006, something like that, which has Europa riding the bull. I mean, they're ancient, esoteric, occult ritual symbols are all over the place, because these families are that are behind the European Union were behind the Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire. It's a continuation. It's not something new. It just changes the mask on its face as it moves through history.
Also, you mentioned Rothschild as being behind the creation of the European Union as well. And actually, yesterday I found an interesting thing regarding Rothschild. They said this: in 1954, Baron Robert Rothschild was appointed chef de cabinet of Paul Henry Spaak at the Belgian Foreign Ministry. For the next 2 years, he worked together with Spaak and, maybe butchering his name here, Jean-Charles Snoy et de Oppers, or something like that, on the Treaty of Rome. Before the final signing of the treaty in 1957, shortly before the treaty was signed, Rothschild standing beside Spaak, gazing over the Forum Romanum in Rome, when Spaak said, "I think that we have re-established the Roman Empire without a single shot being fired." Anything you want to comment in regards to that?
Exactly what they've done. And like I say, they want a global Roman Empire. The Rothschilds are fundamental to this. They are a family that were once called the Bowers, who were a notorious, if you say, black magic, occult, secret society type family, who changed their name to Rothschild, Red Shield. And from that time, they grasped control of the now global economic system. They control all global finance, virtually, that has any effect on people's lives anyway. And they operate as if not the spider, then the operational organization of the spider. They are the people that are closest to the spider and at the center of this global secret society web, and they hand out the agenda and make sure it's played out through the web in every country. And so they don't just control the financial level, they control the corporations, and they control governments, and they are also the guiding, controlling force behind a network of organizations which were spawned from a secret society started in Britain in the late 19th century called the Round Table. And the offshoot satellite organizations of this central core Rothschild-controlled secret society, the Round Table, they started off in 1920 with the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Watch the think tanks. Look how the world is awash with think tanks, right? The think tanks are the means through which this whole thing is orchestrated overwhelmingly. So you have a think tank called the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London. A year later, 1921, Council on Foreign Relations, which dominates United States foreign policy and the State Department in America, etc. Then you had the Club of Rome, I think that was 1968, that was set up to manipulate the environment and the environmental movement to justify global transformation. And this is where the lie of human-caused climate change has come from. 1954, you had the Bilderberg Group, and then in 1973, you had the Trilateral Commission, which was co-created by David Rockefeller, and the Rockefellers are a subordinate bloodline within the network to the Rothschilds. They represent the Rothschilds in America, the wider world too, but especially America. And the other co-creator of the Trilateral Commission was Zbigniew Brzezinski, President Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, who is one of the prime mentors of Barack Obama, who's just another, mask on the same face that as Bush was. And the Bilderberg Group is very, very important in the creation and the centralization of power within the European Union. For people who are new to these organizations, what they are is coordinating networks to coordinate a common policy, a common view among different countries, different people in banks, people in government, people in NATO, people in intelligence agencies. It's to create a coordination of view and of policy. And the Bilderberg Group has been one of the prime manipulators of the policy of of centralization of power in Europe. It's been from 1954, one of its prime motives has been to create the European Union as we now have. And it's very obvious and blatant that what we're seeing now was planned from the start. We have a situation where Russian dissidents who've come out of the old Soviet Union are describing the European Union, quite rightly, as a mirror in structure of the Soviet Union with the Politburo, etc. And some of them, one of them in particular, tells the story of having seen reports or official reports of a meeting that Mikhail Gorbachev had when he was the leader of the Soviet Union, with David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger from the Trilateral Commission and Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, where in the middle of the conversation, d'Estaing said, Mr. President, this is what's going to happen within a certain number of years. In other words, what's happening now with the Treaty of Lisbon, the Lisbon Treaty, is going to happen in Europe, and it's going to happen in this period of years. So basically, you better get used to it. Now, what's interesting is two things. First of all, if France and the Netherlands had not voted no to the original constitution, then d'Estaing's timescale would have been virtually exact what he said, the number of years hence that this was going to come in. It's only been delayed because of those referendums, which meant they had to go through the process of going from a constitution to a treaty and all the rest of it. The other interesting thing is the person who oversaw the writing of the constitution was Valéry Giscard d'Estaing. So, Bilderberg Group, by the way. And we had a guy in the UK who was a practicing Satanist and serial child killer. I said that in my books when he was alive, no comeback because it's true, called Ted Heath. Ted Heath was Prime Minister of Britain from 1970 to 74, and he was the man who signed us into the European community and knowing what it was going to be. And he was one of the obsessive campaigners for us to go in right through the 60s. We have in Britain something called the 30-year rule, where cabinet papers are released after 30 years. Some of them are not released then because of national security, in other words, security of the agenda. But what came out in the 30-year rule in terms of Ted Heath is he had agreed, while denying it in public, to the rundown of the British fishing industry, the rundown of British agriculture, the rundown of manufacturing industry, right at the start. We're talking the early 1970s, because, again, what is happening was planned from the start. They have had this whole plan of turning the whole of Europe into effect a single unit. So before all these unions came in, you would have a country, and this part of the country would be the coal mining, if they had coal resources. This part would be industry. This part would do that. This part would do that. Different parts of the country specialize in different things. So the plan has been to do that to Europe. So right from the start, amazing but true, they were dictating which parts of